Okay, cool, dude. Well, tell us about the country you're hunting. Where are we?
So you're right up in the northwest corner of New Mexico. Pretty rocky here. We do have some bigger trees, but it's pretty rocky and ledgy. You can go a little bit further south and get into some bigger pines without the rocks, Cuba country. You can go west and same deal on the Navajo, or over on the Navajo, on the Arizona line. Or you can go 5 hours south and completely get out of the trees and be in the desert. So the thing about New Mexico is it changes so fast. You can drive a couple hours and be in a million different places.
And what's the country? Would you describe it as sort of like canyon country? Is it the hills?
This is high desert country up here. They're going to be canyons, but we're going to have trees growing, as well. But it is canyon country.
How does the country affect your hunting?
I think these dogs got to adapt to this ledge country. I think if somebody from, say, Idaho came in here and these dogs had never been in the ledges, I think they'd struggle for a few days. I think eventually those dogs would adapt and overcome it too. But I think it would take a day or two to get them to adapt to it. And same as if we were to go to that Idaho country fighting your guys' brush, them dogs would have to learn how to plow through that brush.
Do you get a lot of dogs knocked off the bluffs and in those ranges?
It happens every now and again, but not as much as what you'd think. But it does happen.
Yeah, I was in some of those places. I just drove through the Cuba Badlands, and I was thinking, if I was hunting out here, I'd probably carry rope with me.
Yeah. So and I actually pack a rope in my pack, a rappelling rope. Of course, we don't have harnesses or none of that, and just tie it around your waist and rednecking off there.
Have you had to do that?
We have. Yeah, we use it quite a bit. A few years ago, we were down in that Gallup country and bear hunting in August. Had a bear caught, been baying for a while. Got a couple miles from us. I knew they were caught. So get to them, me and one of my guides, and I could hear one dog distinctly over the rest of them. I thought, why does that dog sound different than everything else? We get there and him and two other dogs had got knocked off about, 15-foot ledge, and they were stuck on a 16, 18-inch wide ledge over an 80-foot drop. And the only thing that caught them was a little bitty bush. Kept them three dogs that bear had swiped at them, and them dogs just moving out of the way and fell. At the time, all I had was leads, dog leads. We tied dog leads together and climbed down 15 foot off of dog leads, which is never a good idea. Had to drag them dogs back up. But after that, I sent my dad some pictures and videos of us doing that. Next thing I know, I got a rappelling rope in the mail from my old man.
Yeah, that's good. Good dad.
And we actually caught a line in that Badlands country you were talking about a few years ago. Same deal, it went into a hole. And I had a dog down in that hole with that line. It was, 15, 18 feet straight down. Tied the rope off, and I had several guys with me, and guides and buddies, and tied the rope off, and I climbed down, got my dog, could see the lion in there. Finally convinced the hunter to climb down in there with me. And by the time he climbed down in there, that lion had enough and ended up going deeper. Because them holes in that Badlands, that water starts, and them holes go forever. So that God only knows how deep that hole went, and how far underground you're going to go. And the hunter just decided he wasn't going to go any farther than I did. Like, it was getting kind of sketchy where we were at. But we do use ropes quite a bit.
Is that something you experienced where you find that the clients you're guiding are not up to the things that you're doing in hunting, or are they usually pretty well equipped?
50-50.
Really?
50% of them will do anything you ask them to do. It may take a little convincing, but 50% of the time you can convince them to do about anything. The other 50%, they just won't give you the effort. They can do it. They just got to put forth the effort, and they just ain't gonna do it. It's real frustrating on our side, being an outfitter, and even for my guides. We get a hunter. They're paying big money to go on a hunt, and they just will not put forth the effort that they need to do what they need to do. It's frustrating on our end, but at the end of the day, they're paid hunters, so you do what they want to do.
Do you feel like it's hard country? Are the conditions tough?
For the client,
Mhm.
at times, it is. You know, the toughest part is a lot of these guys are coming from sea level.
Mhm.
So they're going from sea level to this, anywhere from 6 to 9,000 feet, depending on where we're at.
Mhm.
So the altitude gets to them, for sure. But at the end of the day, you know, you paid this much money. You've gotta be able to walk a little bit, you know.
Yep.
We're not in Texas hunting off a pile of bait, you know, like, you're not sitting in a tree stand. And everybody asks me, you know, the hunters will call and say, oh, how much walking are we gonna do? It's like, well, I don't know. We've caught them where we can literally drive under the tree, and we've caught them where we gotta walk 2 miles or 2.5 miles. I can't tell you to get here.
Mhm.
Just be in as best shape as you can. Me and my guys are gonna put forth 110% effort as long as you'll give us 90% of what we think you're capable of. That's the hardest part for us, is when these guys ain't wanting to put out the effort.
Yep.
It brings morale in camp down pretty bad.
Yeah, that must be tough. I'm trying to think of how I would describe the country. It's sort of these red clay badlands, and right now it's hailing outside, and we can hear it on the barn or the shop, and it's getting churned up into a wet red, muddy mess.
When it gets wet here, it's wet.
Yeah.
And it'll dry out pretty quick, you know, 2 or 3 days normally, but we've had an exceptionally wet year.
Mhm.
So the water just ain't got anywhere else to go, so it's staying a little bit muddier longer.
Mhm.
Some of the places we hunt, you know, roads have been plowed out and plowed out and plowed out and from snow, you know, and there's 10-foot snowbanks on either side of the road. Well, now all that's melting and running down the road, and the roads look like rivers. I mean, it's terrible.
Yep, it's pretty roaded up country because of all the oil and gas.
It is. And we can get into country that's not roaded up.
Really?
This area we're in now is a pretty big oil and gas field, so there are quite a few roads in this country.
And how does that impact your hunting?
Good and bad. The good thing is you can always get your dogs pretty quick. The bad thing is everybody else knows that it's pretty easy country to hunt because you can get your dogs pretty quick. So we see a lot of competition, especially on the lion side.
Really? Are you waking up 3 in the morning, getting out in the
Oh no,
dark?
we're waking up at like 9 or 10 at night.
Okay.
And running all night. And
Yeah.
man, it takes a lot of fun out of it for us.
So I guess because you're an outfitter, there's a professional element to the fact that you guys are waking up and, you know, doing that all night. But for me, the competition in hound hunting, I have avoided it and not hunted in it, but it just seems like it would take so much of the fun out of it.
It does. You know, and the thing is, because there are so many roads, yeah, say you find a track at 11 o'clock at night. Where's that line gonna be at daylight? How many more roads has he crossed?
Mhm.
And if you and your guys are split up, you know, I've got several guides that are guiding for me, and then we've got guys that are just cutting track that don't have hounds. If you're split up covering as much country as you can, it may take them guys a couple hours to get to you to help you leapfrog that track. Well, somebody else comes in on you, you're sitting on the track on this road, and that line may have crossed 5 or 6 miles from here again. And so by the time you get around there to cut in front, somebody else has already found it. So you've wasted all night sitting on that track.
Mhm.
So it's frustrating. That's why we've been doing some dirt hunting down south. We found some ranches down there, private ranches. Got a pretty good chunk of ground tied up.
Mhm.
It's rough, rugged country. Probably some of the toughest country I've ever hunted as far as dog feet.
Up here or down south?
Down south.
Oh, okay.
There ain't any trees down there. I mean, it's desert. But it's that Malapai rock.
Mhm.
And the first time we hunted it, we took 6 or 7 dogs apiece. And after 2 days of hunting, we didn't have a dog that could stand up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. You roll into camp now and you look like we're going to bear camp. You know, there'll be 40 dogs tied up in a lion camp. But
Yeah.
you've got to, because after a hard day of hunting, the dogs are laid up for 2 or 3 days because of the feeding. So
Do you think if you were hunting down there all the time, the dogs, can dogs, because I did the same thing, I went hunting down there, and my dogs are out a lot, so they're not soft-footed, and they were sore-footed for a couple days afterwards. Do you think that they can get used to that, or is it just that, because it's all hard shale and rock down there?
I do. I think they'll adapt to it. I think it would take time. I mean, my dogs are on concrete. So theoretically, they should be as tough-footed as they get, but I guess it's different running on it versus just in a concrete kennel, I really don't know. I would think that their feet would get better, but I still don't think we can hunt as hard as we do up here and not have feet trouble.
Yeah, the soil up here is pretty perfect. It feels like. How do the dogs do when you go down into the desert? Because it's very dry down there.
It is, but, it really surprised us when we started hunting down there that they could move them tracks like they were moving a bear track. First day or two out, we find a line track and turn them out on it, and they go up over a ridge and go to rolling it good. And looking at the GPS, you think they're trashing because they're pushing that track so hard. They never did. I mean, we weren't having any trash races. They're just, I think down there it's so dry that scent stays for a lot longer versus up here we get a little more dew at night than most people realize. And obviously we're not getting as much dew as what back east gets, but there is enough dew here by 9 or 10 o'clock that it starts to burn off and that scent goes with it. This is some of the toughest country I've ever hunted in the dirt. And not that I've hunted a lot of places in the dirt, but talking to some old timers and people that I've hunted with in the past, they say the same thing. That if you can catch a line right here in the dirt, you can catch a line anywhere in the dirt. And I'll have to agree with that. Because like I say, even just going a little ways south and hunting in the big timber, it's different hunting there than it is up here.
Yeah, it seems like no matter what type of hunting you're doing with hounds, consistency in temperature and moisture is the key, right?
Yep.
If you have heaps of moisture but it stays wet, if you got lots of snow but it stays either frozen or thawed out, however, but
Yep.
yeah.
Well, and then it makes it tough here because we're getting cold enough, even in May. Our ground's going to be freezing, so that makes it pretty tough to find a track.
So when you're hunting down in the desert, are you free casting the dogs or how are you hunting?
A little of both. We free cast a little bit, and we're actually physically cutting track like we would in the snow. It's rocky, so you're definitely going to miss a few tracks. But there's enough sand you can turn the track up easy enough. The problem, we actually even roaded some dogs in front of us driving down the road, just free casting that way. But again, the problem is you're burning the feet up.
Yeah.
By the time you rode a dog 10 miles to find a line track, well, he's toast for 3 days.
Yep, and now that track's colder and it's getting hot out. Even in the wintertime down there, it's warm in the daytime.
I think the first April would be as late as I would want to hunt down there and not worry about heat stroke. Yeah, it's still getting into the high 30s at night, and you can hunt till noon, but boy, you better be able to pull them off at noon. And the problem is that it's so roadless down there. If you weren't on horseback, you'd have a hard time getting the dogs pulled off by noon. Yeah,
it sounds like also it gets very snaky come end of spring.
I would imagine. Yeah, I would imagine there's snakes everywhere down there. Yeah.
That's something I haven't had to deal with too much where I've been at, and I'm not looking forward to my dogs finding out about rattlesnakes.
Yeah, this country up here, we've got a few snakes, but not enough to really worry about. The worst I've ever seen, we hunted down by Alpine one year. There was a bunch of snakes down there. We actually had a couple dogs get snake bit. The thing about a dog and snakes, as long as they don't get bit from the chest up, they're all normally pretty good. They don't react to it like we do. The swelling is what gets them. If they get bit from the chest up where their neck's swelling and it closes their airways off, that's when a dog is in trouble. But I've had dogs bit in the feet. Yeah, you still got to worry about it, but infection's what you got to worry about. But we carry a bottle of dexamethasone, give them a shot of Dex, and pump them full of Benadryl. I carry Benadryl in my pack if I know I'm going to be in snake country. Pump them full of Benadryl until you get to camp, give them a shot of Dex, and start them on antibiotic, and they're normally going to be all right.
Do you think that a dog can smell a snake?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know if I even want to speculate on that.
I've heard guys saying that reptiles don't smell, but I had a pet snake growing up, and its shit stunk worse than anything else. But I think they do have a distinct smell, but I've often wondered if a dog can smell a snake or a turtle. Or
You know the old saying, I've heard guys saying, "Oh, that dog would trail a snake if you let it." Just talking about how cold nosed the dog is.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, maybe they can. I don't know.
yeah,